This is Math 96, Quiz Topics 3, Dividing a Polynomial by a Monomial, Multivariate. Our first example says, divide, simplify your answer as much as possible. Notice that we have a fraction made up of a polynomial on the top and a monomial, or a single term, on the bottom. So if you remember just regular arithmetic, if we had a fraction that was 2 plus 5 over 4, we could break that into two fractions, 2/4 plus 5/4. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to break this into three separate fractions based on each of these terms in the numerator. So we have -6 y to the 5th z to the 5th over 3y to the 3rd z to the 4th. That's our first one. Plus 24 y squared z to the 5th over 3y to the 3rd z to the 4th plus 18 y to the 3rd z to the 4th over 3y to the 3rd z to the 4th. So now I want to cancel out common factors in each fraction so that I can get each fraction to be as simple as possible. So first of all, -6 divided by 3 would be -2. And then I use my quotient rule. Y to the 5th divided by y to the 3rd, I would subtract those two exponents, and that would be y to the 2nd. And then subtract these two exponents for the z. Z to the 5 minus 4 would just be z to the 1st, or z. My second fraction, I do 24 divided by 3 would be 8. So this is plus 8. Okay, and then using the quotient rule again, y squared over y cubed, 2 minus 3 would be a -1. And so I could write this as y to the -1, and then z to the 5 minus 4 would just be z, or z to the 1st. And then plus 18 divided by 3 is 6. Y to the 3rd divided by y to the 3rd. 3 minus 3 would be 0. So basically the y's cancel out entirely. Z to the 4th over z to the 4th, those would also cancel out, so leaving just the 6. So the only thing I really still need to do is I see a negative exponent on this y. So I'm going to rewrite this middle term so that that y to the -1 moves to the denominator. And so this is -2y squared z plus 8z over y plus 6. And that will be my final answer for the first one. The second one is similar. It says divide, simplify your answer as much as possible. Notice that instead of being written as a fraction, it's written side by side as division, but this is the same thing. I'm dividing a polynomial by a single term, and so I divide this term into each one of these. So 27uz squared over -3u squared z cubed. And then minus, since there's a minus here, 8u squared z cubed over -3u squared z cubed. And then another minus, 15u to the 7th z to the 4th over -3u squared z to the 3rd. Okay, in my first fraction, 27 divided by -3 would be a -9. U to the 1st over u to the 2nd, 1 minus 2, so I'd have u to the -1 when I subtract exponents, and then z to the 2 minus 3 would be z to the -1. Okay, now I have subtraction, and I'm dividing by a negative, so these are two negatives that end up canceling out. This becomes plus, and 8 over 3 does not simplify, so I will leave that as a fraction. U squared over u squared, those are the same, so they cancel, and then the z cubed over z cubed are the same, so they cancel as well. Here again I have minus and divided by a negative, so that becomes plus. 15 divided by 3 would be 5. U to the 7th over u squared. I'm subtracting the 7 minus 2, so u to the 5th. And then z to the 4 minus 3 would be z to the 1st, or just z. So I only now need to simplify this first term. Both of these negative exponents will move to the denominator. And so I have negative 9 over u z plus 8/3 plus 5 u to the 5th z. And that's my final answer.